In Canada, we use the metric system. That's probably what you guys are most familiar with for most things. And it's nice, it's a nice, easy system because we got everything in multiples of 10. So there's 100 centimeters in a meter, there's 1,000 meters in a kilometer, there's 1,000 milliliters in a liter, there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, etc. So it's really nice. We happen to also live right beside the United States, where they are still stuck in the dark ages where they use feet and inches, although you should be somewhat familiar with feet and inches because most of you probably know your height in feet rather than in meters. Um, but we need to know both of them. So there's 12 inches in 1 foot, 36 inches in 1 yard because there's 3 feet in 1 yard. If you play football, yards are what still measured in. There's 3 feet in 1 yard. 1 yard is a little bit less than a meter. We'll talk about that later. This one I never remember, 5,280 feet in a mile, and there's 1,600 or 760 yards in a mile. If you look at a ruler that's in imperial units, so in your feet or inches, you'll notice that it's usually divided into halves, quarters, eighths, and sixteenths, where we used to use tenths. So same thing if you talk about cups when you're measuring, for example. You've got a cup, you've got half a cup, you've got a quarter cup, you've got an eighth of a cup. If you're doing metric, 250 milliliters, 125 milliliters, etc. So example 3, we've got Wilhelmina. She's a seamstress, because I guess if you're a seamstress, you have to have an old name like Wilhelmina. She's sewing bridesmaid dresses. She orders the fabric from the United States, where it's measured in yards. So each dress requires 3 3/4 yards of silk, 1 1/2 yards of lace fabric, and 7 1/4 yards of trim. How much of each type of material does she need to make 5 dresses? So for the silk, she needs 3 3/4 times 5. There's 2 different ways you can do this. Okay, we can convert to decimal. So we can say 3 divided by 4, you put that into your calculator, is 3.75 times 5, and that will give us 3.75 times 5 will give us 18.75. Or you can keep it in fractions, in which case you need to change this to an improper fraction, which we do by 3 times 4. 12 plus 3 is 15 quarters times 5, and we're going to get 75 quarters. And then when you do 75 divided by 4, you're going to once again get 18.75 or 18 3/4. Okay. Either way is completely acceptable, and you pick the one that to you makes the most sense. Okay, so then her lace fabric, she wants 1 1/2 yards times 5. So to change that to a decimal, 1/2, it's 1.5 times 5, and that should give us 7.5, and I should put my measurements in. That's yards. That's yards. Or you could do 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3/2 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15 halves, which is 7 1/2. Okay, and our last one is the trim, and it's 7 1/4 yards of trim. We need that for 5 dresses. So 1 divided by 4 is 0.25 times 5. So 7.25 times 5 gives us 36.25. And again, that's yards. Or we could say 7 times 4 is 28, plus 1 is 29 quarters, times 5. 29 times 5 would be 145 quarters, and 145 divided by 4 should be 36 1/4, and of course these are all yards as well. I suspect most of you will prefer to change it to a decimal. Just remember the whole number stays the same. Then you just do for the decimal, 3 divided by 4 will give you 0.75, 1 divided by 2 will give you 0.5, and 1 divided by 4 will give you the 0.25 that you need there.